Okay, here we go with Fabula Facilis 68, the Magic Ointment. Okay, so we've got Medea. And who is Medea? Well, she's apparently, from what it says here, the daughter of the king. And she, notice this is amo amare with odd in front of it. Okay. So amar amare is to love or like, and here with odd in front of it, it means to fall in love. So Medea, the daughter of the king, fell in love with Jason. Okay, and when she heard, and here we go with we've got an indirect statement in secondary sequence because we've got a past tense head verb introducing it. Okay, when she heard that he, probably Jason, okay, was, and notice it's was because we're in secondary sequence. When she heard that he, and here's our subject of our infinitive, okay, coming first, our accusative subject of the infinitive. And notice we've got infinitive accusative here, but we've also got accusative here. How do we know which is the subject, and how do we know it's the direct object? One clue is that usually the subject is going to come first, um, but also it's really context. Okay, when she heard that he was going to go or undergo what? Such a great danger, she was bearing the matter or the situation poorly. Okay. She was anxious about this because she really liked Jason and she didn't want him to get hurt because she knew her dad was setting him up to get killed by the bulls or whatever. Okay. That seems to be a common thing with Jason is people setting him up for failure. Okay. Um, Okay, so she was understanding that indeed, okay, that her father, and here again we have accusatives and accusatives, okay, that her father had proposed or had set forth this labor, okay, for this very purpose, okay. Concilium can mean a plan, okay. Um, for this very purpose. What purpose? That Jason would die. Okay. And notice here we've got imperfect subjunctive. Why? Because we're in secondary sequence. Even though it's a purpose clause, which is usually pointing towards the future, we're in secondary sequence, so we're going to use the imperfect subjunctive instead of the present subjunctive. Okay. Which things, since they were so, okay, a couple of things going on here. One, in English, it's very awkward for us to begin a sentence with a relative pronoun. Latin does it all the time. This is what we call in English, we call this a connecting relative, okay? Basically, it's referring back to what was said in the previous sentence, okay? We can translate this if we want to in English instead of as a relative pronoun, just as a regular pronoun. So we could say, since these things were so, okay, and notice we've got a subjunctive here, which is probably probably means that this is also meant to be a relative clause of characteristic, okay. These sorts of things is what they were, that sort of thing, like that characterizes whatever is the antecedent of the relative pronoun. Since these things were so, Medea, okay, and then here we have Medea as the antecedent of this relative pronoun. Medea, who was having the highest knowledge of medicine, entered into this plan. Okay. Ablative of time when? In the middle of the night. Ablative absolute with her father unknowing, okay, present active participle with her father unaware, okay, she left the city, and after she came into the neighboring mountains, she picked certain plants. Okay, and notice carpset here. Remember carpe diem? Okay, yeah, to seize the day, to pluck the day. Okay, she plucked or picked certain plants. Okay, then, and here we have an absolute, ablative absolute. Then, after the juice was pressed out, okay, we do get our word espresso from this because you press that water under high pressure through the coffee grounds. After the juice was pressed out, she prepared an ointment. Okay. Well, what kind of ointment? Well, this relative clause is going to tell us an ointment which, by means of its own power, okay, nourishes the body and strengthens muscles. Okay. Now, here's an unusual thing. We're going to see this a couple times in this passage where we have normally when we have a reflexive adjective, a third person reflexive adjective, it would normally reflect back to whoever is the subject of the main verb. Okay. In this case, the subject of the main verb is Medea. Okay. She's the one who prepared, right, the ointment. Okay. But in this case, it doesn't necessarily make sense that the power is Medea's, although we might understand that by extension because it is her healing art that is that concocted this, but I think it makes more sense in this case that that which the ointment which heals the body by means of its own strength, so the ointment's own strength. So it looks like Sua is really going back to quad, okay, which of course is ultimately the ointment. Okay, which heals, or maybe would heal, because remember we're still in a secondary sequence, because she prepared, right? Okay, which would heal the body by means of its own power and strengthen muscles. Okay. This having been done, or after this was done, or after this happened, okay. What did she do? She gave the ointment to Jason in the dative case. Okay. And then here Praecipio, or Praecipit. Okay. This is Praecipio. Okay. And remember, okay, what we've got here is Prae plus Copio. So this is a compound formed from Copio, which ultimately means to seize or take. Okay. And what we have is why does our dictionary entry say Praecipio? Well, because we have the vowel weakening here, where the A weakens to an I when it has been compounded, when we've had a prefix put onto the beginning. Usually changes where the accent is, but it also changes the strength of that vowel, and it becomes an I. Okay, just like when you put cum in front of facio, it becomes conficio, that kind of thing. Okay, so she ordered or strongly suggested, okay, however, or moreover, probably here, that. And so what we have here is we've got an indirect command, okay. We've got a verb of ordering or recommending or advising, maybe in this case. Probably advising is probably the best understanding of that. And then what you have is basically you've got one of these verbs of warning or suggesting or ordering, followed by a purpose clause. And basically an indirect command is a very special type of purpose clause. Okay. Okay, so moreover, she advised that, and that on the day, okay, another ablative of time when, and then we have a relative clause here. Okay, let's bypass that for now. Okay, and keep on looking. On that day, she advised that on that day, a body. Okay, now is that her body? Again, this is another exception to that rule. Probably not her body and weapons in the morning obliterate. And again, we have imperfect subjunctive in an indirect command, which again is a special type of purpose clause. Okay. So she advised that he, probably Jason, okay, that he in the morning on that day, right, that he smear his body. So notice we have got sum is actually going to whoever is the subject of this verb, and it makes the most sense that that would be Jason, okay, that he smear his own body and weapons, okay, and we just completely left out the ointment itself here, so probably with the ointment, okay, understood. We just have to fill that in from context. It's the only thing that makes the most sense. Okay, well, let's go back to the relative clause. So on that day, ablative of time when, and then we have another ablative of time when with quo. On that day on which, okay, those labors were having to be accomplished. And again, we have the gerundive here, which has the sense of necessity built into it. Okay, so she advised. Moreover, she advised that or maybe just that on the day when we can translate quo as when, on that day when those labors, okay, and notice isti is being used here as like those icky labors, those labors of her father, her evil father, okay, when those labors were having to be accomplished, okay, or had to be accomplished, that he smear his body and weapons in that morning, okay, understood with the ointment, okay. Jason, although, and here we have Piney again. It's not a peninsula is not an island. It's almost an island, right? Okay. So all men, probably dative or ablative, magnitudine, ablative, size, and here wearibus. This is not weirus, okay? Remember, weirus is second declension. So if you've got ibus here, that can't be weirus, meaning man. It has to be vis, which means strength. And a lot of times vis is used in the plural. And then corpus corporis, so of body, and antekalebot, okay, which means to excel or surpass other people. And what we have here is it's very common if you've got a compound verb, okay. So this is ante plus kello, okay. And with this word verb is related to the word for mountain or hill, collis, okay. It means something that's high, okay. Or so that it's above something else, okay. And so Jason, although he was excelling, and so if you've got a compound, a lot of times if you need a direct object and you can't find one in Latin, and you've got a compound verb, look for the dative. You can in Latin it's not really the direct object, but in English it will act like a direct object, okay. To stand in front of someone else, okay. So Jason, although he was excelling all people with respect to his strength or his size and strength, okay, for in fact his entire life in huntings and in desire for the military thing was consumed. Okay, so vita is the subject of consumebatur, okay, was used up or spent, okay, for indeed his whole life was spent in hunting and in his eagerness for the martial art, okay. In other words, he spent all this time working out, basically, and doing athletic things, okay. But there's the although here, and we need to explain that. Okay, so although he was excelling everybody else in his size and strength, nevertheless, he was thinking that this plan should not be neglected. In other words, he should go ahead and use So yes, yeah. So in his life was consumed in hunting and fighting. Okay, learning how to fight. Um, Nevertheless, okay, he he was thinking that this plan, the plan of Medea's, right, must not be neglected, must not be overlooked. Okay, okay. And notice indirect statement. He was thinking that, and now concilium is the subject of essay, that this plan was not to be neglected. Okay, so he's basically he might have even thought it was kind of almost cheating. Okay, but he kind of figured that, well, if Medea thinks this is important, then I should probably do it, and so that's what he did. And then we'll find out what happens next. Thank you.